You two boys were obviously out in Dubai, as I mentioned, and you were, I can't believe I've got to say this, but it's written down here, was this highly anticipated fight between Pulev. Who the was highly anticipating that? Right? But let's just say it was... Pat the Pratt, right? But the fact of the matter is that you were at this highly anticipated fight between Kubrat Pulev, who didn't want to fight Moses Zatomo because there wasn't enough money on the table, against Gassiev, who got beat by Wardley a couple of years ago. Right? Thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, do you know what? It was quite an interesting fight, to be fair. I think that Pulev started well. He was working well behind the jab, and he surprised me in many ways because I thought that Gassiev was the guy that was going to come out and start fast, but it was totally the other way. Pulev held the centre of the ring. He was working well with a straight right hand through the middle, but Gassiev done a very clever thing in round 5 where he sort of feinted the jab, nailed him with a left hook, didn't catch him cleanly. But that was the one that set the trap because in round 6 he went out there, done the self-same thing, feinted the jab, whipped the left hook over, and he showed that he has that power. He's carried it up from the cruiserweights into the heavyweight division. That was a good win there. There we see the finishing shot. What a shot there. And he was out. Not many people have done that, by the way, to Pulev.
He is 40-odd years of age.
Forget his age, mate. Forget his age. I mean, what I'm saying is the job was still done. It was a single shot, Simon. A single shot, and it was a great shot.
Professor McKenzie, were you impressed with Gassiev?
The only reason I wasn't impressed because Pulev, he was just flicking the jab and didn't have any real impact on it. It was like a don't hit me jab, really. He was just sort of flicking it, wasn't he? Trying to set him up for the right hand. And he did throw the right hand once or twice and land. But for 6 rounds, Gassiev did nothing.
Up to the 6, that's what I'm saying. Up to that point, he done absolutely. I mean, Pulev was in a big lead.
Yeah,
like, because,
he was
the shots that he was throwing, they weren't having much of an effect, but they were still scoring points. And you looked at it and you go, as Gassiev at 32 years of age, maybe blown a gasket. Maybe he's not now where he should be. But he delivered in the end, and that was the importance.
Yeah, when you boys were out there, you caught up with some big names. One of them, obviously, was Deontay Wilder, we heard earlier on. He came on and joined myself, Jim, and Adi Oladipo late last week. Let's have a listen to what he had to say to us.
Is this going to happen?
Yeah, it's definitely becoming more of a conversation, a real conversation as that, and boxing is a business, and, sometimes business, you can have solid business and then it falls through. Many times you see that, and then most of the times, if we're lucky and God blesses us, we get the great fights and they happen, and great things come from that. Great memories for sure. And right now we're definitely in talks of that fight, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Once I get the final say-so of how things are and the final details of things, and I know for sure that it's on, then my heart will be pumping, my blood will be boiling, and that's when the excitement happens and get ready to go to camp. I never get opportunities, nobody really ever give me chances, especially coming up. They always talk about the power and stuff like that, and when you have power like that, you get less chances, and I guess after the losses and stuff, people get brave now. They get brave, they get more confident, and they're willing to call you out a little bit more. It's crazy how you have more chances when people think you're down and out and don't have it than when you're at the top and you're knocking guys out. But I've never left. My mind probably left a little bit. A lot of things was going on in my personal life. I just couldn't manage myself. After 3 therapists and sports psychologists, God is good. That's all I can say. That's why I'm so happy now.
We'll pick up on that last sentence from Deontay in a minute, but we were quite surprised, Pat, when we heard Oleksandr Usyk talk about who he wanted to fight next and went after the fight with Deontay Wilder. Are you surprised by that development?
I am, to be fair, yeah, because obviously everyone thinks Wilder's over and out.
Yep.
And, style-wise, he's not the best on his feet. He's known just to have that massive right hand, so he's always going to be dangerous in any fight he's in. But in terms of excitement, I would prefer to watch Usyk in against, someone who deserves to be there to fight for the belt. Like Wilder, I don't know. I don't know if I would. Like, I genuinely think Usyk will just.
I think from Usyk's point of view, I think that he's just looking at it and going, he wants the best of this generation. And Wilder, all right, he's not right now, but it's a box.
Do you really think? I know you've made that point last week, and we often talk about what the media thinks of things and optics of this. Do you really think in the fighting, in the mind of Oleksandr Usyk, that's won everything that needs to be won? He's beaten the best as they are now. He's beaten Daniel Dubois twice. He's beaten Tyson Fury twice. He's beaten Anthony Joshua twice. This is not the best version of Deontay Wilder anymore. He's fought all the best. So why would he need to tick that box? Some legacy that someone's going to talk about in 10 years' time.
Well, let's flip it then. So where else does he go? Like, for him, that's the least dangerous fight.
It's
what
the
I'm
most
saying
money.
is he ticks all the boxes.
So it's the most money, really, isn't it?
Commercially, it's probably still a massive fight, yeah.
It's the most money.
So, yeah.
You spent a lot of time with Deontay, poor bugger that he is, having to be afflicted with that. Right?
Got on very well.
What do you make of him?
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's
a lovely
full
guy.
of charisma, isn't he?
Do you know what? He was very open. You know, he talks about the problems, the betrayal that he's had, you know, with people in his life, the PTSD that he went through after his last fight. He said, you know, the sports psychologist, he was very honest and open, saying that I was in a bad place, you know. He said, look, you'll understand this, that when I was training, I had stuff going on in the background, you know, and that's not making an excuse for my performances in the ring, but there was a lot of stuff going on in the background. You're getting on with your training. He said, when the first bell rings, you recognise that you haven't left that stone unturned, and it affected his performances. He went out there and he said, look, it's not for me to... He said, the only way I can prove it is by getting in the ring and doing it, but the troubles that I've had in my recent performances have showed that. He said, that's not the Deontay Wilder. That, look, he definitely talked the talk, but in the recent performances, I said, it's down to him to prove it now. But, you know, I think when we look at the last 10 years, this last decade, and you're talking about characters of the sport, and you look at Deontay Wilder...
He's up there.
He's up there,
He's box
right?
office.
And you go... Please just find one more performance. And when you speak to the guy and the troubles he's had outside of the ring,
but
very honest.
Kenny, I mean, this alter ego that we talk about, which is the Bronze Bomber.
Yeah.
Do you reckon? I mean, he's always been a very personable fellow. Even when he was in British TV studios promoting the first fight with Tyson Fury, despite there was an element of rancor between them, he was always relatively good-natured. What is this Bronze Bomber mentality? Is it a real thing? And if it is, does he need to get it back? Is he capable of getting it back at this stage in his career after two, you know, performances against Zhilei Zhang, against Joseph Parker that were just not reflective of what we recognise to be Deontay Wilder? Can he do that? And if he does he have any chance against Oleksandr Usyk?
He's got every chance against Oleksandr Usyk. You know, he could
pack it in, Joe.
No. But listen, because he's such a dangerous puncher. I'm not saying it. Listen, if I was a gambling man, I wouldn't say he would beat Usyk, and I don't think he would beat Usyk. I don't think he will beat Usyk. But him out of all the other heavyweights, because he's such a dangerous puncher, you know, this guy sounds to be rejuvenated in some ways. When I spoke to him some, and I started a YouTube channel, and he gave me a lot of time, and he said to me he had a lot of...
Don't start promoting other stuff on YouTube.
Oh, no, I'm not doing that. I just thought I'd throw it in.
Okay.
No, but he said that he had a lot of personal problems, as Spenny already alluded to. And now he's dealt with these personal problems and managed to get a hold of everything. And he's got a tick box. He's put everything in its box and everything in its place. He's got a clear head now. So he might go into this fight with Usyk, you know, full of vigour and determination. He might shock a few people. And the last thing to go, Spencer, last thing to go from Deontay Wilder is his punch power.
Well, the punch power's still there, but it was like... There. Him talking about PTSD and you know, struggling with all of that and getting over it with a sports psychologist, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But that's his main asset, was the fact that he fought with his heart on his sleeve, right? And he let his hands go, and it was unpredictable because you didn't know where the shots were coming from. If he can rediscover that, Pat, does that put him back in the game? You know, with these heavyweights like Oleksandr Usyk.
I don't think it will put him in the game.
Can he rediscover it?
I don't. I think. When you say rediscover, I just think ever since Tyson's done what he's done, the blueprint's there, and then all he looks for is the right hand. And I just think, especially with Usyk, he definitely won't, even if he had it, the best version of Deontay Wilder will not be Usyk. So I just don't, I think Usyk's unbelievable. But in terms of the other heavyweights, yeah, of course he could get back in the mix with them because it is the heavyweight division and the power is the last thing to go. But I do believe with what Fury did to him, I also think he defeated him mentally as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. When you were out in Dubai, you also caught up with the new WBO heavyweight champion and his manager, Michael Offo, Fabio Wardley. Let's have a listen to Fabio talk about Oleksandr Usyk.
For you guys in camp then, were you feeling that he doesn't fancy 12 hard rounds against a young stud? Is that what your feeling was?
Yeah, look, maybe. I don't know what he did or didn't want, but we were teeing up to have that fight. It seemed like it was, and then look, maybe the performance or maybe the Parker fight itself put him off a bit. Who knows? Like, I'm not going to say...
And I'll just touch on that, sorry. Look, he said himself that if Parker would have won, he would have fought Parker. Parker is not a bigger draw commercially in the UK than Fabio Wardley.
I'm not sure he would have fought Parker, you know. I think they'd have sat on it and had a look at it in the same way that they did with you and just had a little look.
In principle, our team agreed beforehand that we would fight him, you know, gave under all of his conditions, because we know the guy that we have and we believe in Fabio and Fabio believes in himself. You know, to call out, he said that AJ is like a Rolls Royce and Jake Paul's like a Fiat. You know, I would say he's like a Dodge and Wilder's like an old jalopy on the way to the scrapyard. You know, there's no comparison. If this was a Champions League final, you don't see Barcelona turn around and say, oh, I don't fancy fighting Real Madrid. Let me give QPR a chance. No, these guys they've earned the right, and this is not boxing. The whole point of it is, look, WBO. He's not had a mandatory in 4 years. He was meant to fight. He was meant to fight Parker. He dodged that. These two fought a tremendous fight. Both of them didn't need to take it, and then he's escaped.
As a former owner of a London football club, I'm quite happy for QPR to be compared to an old jalopy. Everywhere he's gone, Pat, and with the exception of Justice Hooney, Fabio's been sort of diminished and demeaned, and constantly the backstory of where he's come from being part of the central discussion about him, right? In every fight, besides, I say, Justice Hooney. If you were him, would you be saying the similar things in terms of what Usyk has said about him? Would you be pushing back and saying what he said? Or how would you approach it if you were sat there going, well, hang on a fucking second, I'm the one that he should be fighting, not Deontay Wilder, who's...
Yeah, I believe he should be fighting Usyk. Usyk should be fighting Fabio Wardley 100%. He deserves it. He's earned his right to be there. And yeah, commercially and business, wise, obviously he'll get more money with Wilder, but that's not boxing. When we were touching on, you know, people are stepping up to Usyk. Well, Usyk stepped up to them first, and everyone was like, wow, wow. And then he did it again. Wow, no way. Then he did it to Fury, no way. And that's the feel that you want from Usyk, and that's all he's ever give when he's moved up to heavyweight. Him going in with Wilder, that's the first time where you sort of like, you're not bored, but whereas with Fabio Wardley, you're like, God, he could actually get outworked or chinned it. It gives you that other sort of lens to look through.
But if you're Fabio, and I think in the same way that Daniel Dubois beat Filip Hrgović and then ultimately got awarded the belt outside the ring, he won a world title. Usyk could have done him a favour, or Joseph Parker a favour, and released those belts earlier, so that the fight between Parker and Fabio Wardley could have been for the world title, and as people say, he could have walked out with the new ringing in his ears. But if you're Fabio, do you want your first defence of your belt to be against Oleksandr Usyk? I know you can say, I can grab the other belts as well, but it also, with respect to the eliteness, if you're managing Fabio, I know his manager's being very bold there, and so he should be, do you want to be a world champion for one fight, or at least have a few opportunities to build your credentials, to grow into your skin of being a world champion?
Well, listen, this is from Fabio's mouth, not even mine. Like, he said that is the fights that he wants to go into now. He's always been the guy that's been chasing the guy with the target on the back. Now he said, I've got the target on my back and I want the big fights. He said, I've worked so hard to get to this level. So he said he wants them. He also mentioned that, Anthony Joshua was very much in his sights, and he said that's a fight, obviously, because Joshua, is the big commercial sell.
Do you think...
But they're the fights he wants.
The one I've heard is in the offing and is wanted is Daniel Dubois.
Yeah.
Which Sam Jones was talking about earlier on. Sam would do, because he's looking after Daniel.
That's the one, isn't it?
What do you think of that as a fight?
That's a tough fight.
That's the one, isn't it?
That's a 50-50 fight for
sure.
You
like that one, Pat?
Yeah, I do like it. It's entertaining. But in terms of, defending the belt against Usyk, the heavyweight division now, everyone knows Usyk's the gaffer.
Yep.
And if I'm Fabio Wardley, I don't feel that I'm the world champion because I ain't beat the man. And I know most divisions with all organisations, belts are here and there, and everyone can say the world champion, but I just think,
you want the man.
You want the man,
and that's why
that's the mentality I would have.
And that's why the frustrations are there, mate.
Yeah, you can understand him calling out Usyk, because obviously he's the cash cow. He would give Oleksandr Usyk a fight because he's fearless, isn't he?
But I would suspect all fighters would think that way. But I was not talking about the fighting mentality. I was talking about the management around him.
Yeah.
We see that people did previously manage Anthony Joshua, whether it was Freddie Cunningham, and looking at things that were the right time for the right opportunity. So it wasn't necessarily critiquing the fighter's ambition, because of course as a fighting guy you're going to say I can beat everyone, despite your mentality of going into it with the fact that you're disadvantaged and you want to rise yourself to that level.
And by the way, I'm not like that. If you said to me now you're fighting Opetaev like your next fight, I'll be like, what's the point? Hold on a minute, I've not even gone past 4 rounds. I can't be getting a ring with him yet. I'm smart with it. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't say I'm not being a...
Of course not.
You know, but you've got to be real as a fighter.
But to be fair though, Fabio's sort of like, he's been through it, hasn't he?
No, he has. He deserves.
He's done his apprenticeship, and you go. Also, look, with prize fighters as well, and you go, look, you're looking where the money's at now. You're the world champion, so you're coming with the belt as well. You go, all of a sudden, there's a huge amount of money fighting Oleksandr Usyk as opposed to a first offence. No disrespect to Daniel Dubois, but what's the money going to be on the table for that? So, like, you know, I think from a business point of view, as well as the opportunity, which all us fighters want, to go maybe box for the undisputed world heavyweight title. Come on.
But if that fight didn't happen, with Usyk and Wilder. About Wilder and Wardley. Wouldn't that be a fight?
Massive.
I would look at it, is this so, like, as a man, if I was managing Fabio Wardley, I would go for Usyk. If you get beat by Usyk, which I believe, like...
There's no shame in that.
He's still there.
He can come back down, then he can fight Dubois, then he can fight someone. So whereas if he fights Dubois now and gets beat, boom,
that one's
down.
Yeah.
So
I think that if he doesn't get Usyk, obviously the target is Anthony Joshua.
Got to be.
That's what I'm saying, because that's where you go, from their point of view, Fabio Wardley's, and they know Anthony Joshua very well. They trained with Ben in the same gym, you know, so they know each other very well. He's looking at Anthony Joshua and going, you're the biggest commercial value for me out there. That's where the most money is.
Would AJ want to take that risk?
AJ's at the stage of his career, mate. If he gets offered a world title opportunity, it doesn't matter who it's against, he's got to take it.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise, what is it?
And by the way, if he goes in with Fabio Wardley and Fabio Wardley hits him, he gets knocked out. Sorry.
Don't even talk to me. Don't even talk to me, mate. It's not a conversation yet. Wait until it happens.